My name is LaDonna, and at 32 years old, I thought I had everything figured out. A thriving event planning business in Boston, a gorgeous apartment downtown, and most importantly, my upcoming wedding to James, the man I had loved for 4 incredible years. My younger sister Amanda stood proudly as my maid of honor, helping with every detail, or so I thought. Then, I found the video. One accidental click revealed the ultimate betrayal that would shatter my perfect world into a million pieces. Before I tell you how my perfect life collapsed overnight, let me know where you are watching from in the comments, and if you have ever been betrayed by someone you trusted, hit subscribe and stay with me through this painful journey. I grew up in a middle-class neighborhood outside Boston, the daughter of a high school teacher and an accountant. My parents divorced when I was 12, a messy separation that left emotional scars on all of us. Despite the family fracture, I worked hard, put myself through college, and built my event planning business from scratch. By 30, I had a solid reputation planning luxury weddings for Boston elites, ironically becoming the architect of other people's happily ever afters. I met James at a friend's wedding I had coordinated 4 years ago. He was the best man, tall with warm brown eyes and a smile that made the room disappear. During the reception, he approached me with a glass of champagne and said, "The woman who makes dreams come true deserves a toast of her own." We talked until sunrise, exchanging numbers as the cleaning crew swept around us. Our relationship progressed naturally. Coffee dates became dinner dates. Casual conversations evolved into deep discussions about our hopes, fears, and futures. After a year of dating, James moved into my apartment. We complemented each other perfectly, his laid-back attorney personality balancing my detail-oriented planner mindset. On Christmas morning, 3 years into our relationship, he proposed with a vintage diamond ring that had belonged to his grandmother. Amanda, my sister, younger by 5 years, had always been the golden child in our family. Growing up, she developed a pattern of taking things that belonged to me, from my favorite teddy bear when she was 4 to my prom date when she was 16. Our parents constantly excused her behavior with phrases like "she just looks up to you" or "sharing is caring." I learned to guard my possessions and my heart, but always forgave her, believing blood was thicker than water. In elementary school, Amanda took my science fair project idea, creating a similar version that won first place while mine received only an honorable mention. In middle school, she borrowed my favorite sweater without asking and returned it with a large stain. During high school, she pursued my first boyfriend until he broke up with me to date her instead. Each betrayal stung, but our parents minimized my pain, telling me to be the bigger person because I was older and should know better. After college, Amanda went through a series of jobs and relationships, never quite finding her footing, while I built my business and created stability. Despite our history, I believed we had outgrown our childhood rivalry. When she seemed genuinely excited about my engagement to James, warm tears in her eyes as she hugged me, I thought we had finally moved past our complicated dynamic. When planning my wedding, I never hesitated to ask Amanda to be my maid of honor. Her face lit up with what I interpreted as sisterly joy. "Of course. I would be honored to stand by your side on your big day," she said, pulling me into a tight embrace. I trusted that adult Amanda had evolved beyond the jealous child she once was. Over the next months, everything seemed perfect. I found my dream venue, a historic mansion with breathtaking gardens for the June ceremony. The caterer created a menu that combined James's southern roots with my New England traditions. My dress, an elegant off-shoulder lace gown, fit like it was made for me. Guests confirmed attendance, vendors locked in contracts, and our honeymoon to Greece was fully planned. Looking back, I should have noticed the warning signs. Amanda insisted on accompanying me to every dress fitting, vendor meeting, and cake tasting. At first, I appreciated her enthusiasm, interpreting it as supportive interest rather than calculating observation. She took meticulous notes about every wedding detail in a leather-bound planner she carried everywhere. When she began casually touching James's arm during conversations, or laughing too hard at his jokes, I dismissed the unease crawling up my spine as irrational paranoia. James and Amanda developed what he called a sibling bond that I initially found heartwarming. They shared inside jokes about television shows I had never watched and texted about basketball games I had no interest in. James assured me that he was simply making an effort with my family, something I had always wanted. "Your sister is going to be my family too," he reminded me when I raised an eyebrow at a notification from her lighting up his phone one evening. Family dinners became uncomfortable as Amanda would position herself next to James, engaging him in exclusive conversations while I chatted with our parents. Once, I returned early from the restroom to hear Amanda asking James if he was absolutely sure about his decision. When I asked what they were discussing, both claimed it was about his choice of tie for the wedding. The synchronized response felt rehearsed, but I pushed the suspicion away. As the wedding date approached, my excitement grew alongside a nagging sense of unease I couldn't quite place. I chalked it up to normal pre-wedding jitters and focused on creating the perfect day to begin our life together. After all, I was in the business of making fairy tale weddings come true. Why shouldn't I believe in my own? With just 1 month until the wedding, the bachelor and bachelorette parties were scheduled for the same weekend. Amanda had taken charge of planning my Miami bachelorette party with 7 of my closest friends, while James and his groomsmen headed to Las Vegas. I felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness about the traditional pre-wedding celebration, but trusted Amanda to create a memorable experience. The day before our separate celebrations, I had the final fitting for my wedding dress. Tears welled in my eyes as I stared at my reflection, the reality of becoming James's wife finally sinking in. The seamstress made minor adjustments to the bodice while I took photos to share with my friends, careful not to post them anywhere James might see. "You look absolutely stunning," my best friend Taylor gushed as I twirled in the dress shop. "James is going to lose his mind when he sees you walking down the aisle." Amanda stood silently in the corner, a strange expression flickering across her face before she composed herself. "It's beautiful," she said flatly, scrolling through her phone. "Did James confirm what time his flight leaves tomorrow?" I found her question odd, since she had never shown interest in James's logistical details before. "Around noon, I think. Why?" She shrugged, tucking her phone away, "Just making sure everything is coordinated for both parties, maid of honor duties and all that." That night, James seemed distracted while packing for his trip, checking his phone more frequently than usual. When I asked if everything was okay, he kissed my forehead and murmured something about pre-wedding stress. "Just make sure you have fun with the girls this weekend," he said. "I promise I will behave in Vegas." The next morning, we parted with a lingering kiss at the airport. "Last weekend, as single people," he joked, though something in his eyes didn't match his smile. I brushed it off as departure anxiety, not knowing it was the last moment I would trust him completely. My bachelorette weekend began with cocktails at our oceanfront hotel suite, followed by a private dinner and dancing at an exclusive Miami club. Despite the festivities, I noticed Amanda constantly checking her phone, stepping away for whispered conversations. When Taylor pointed it out, Amanda claimed she was handling last-minute party details. On Saturday night, midway through our celebration, I received a text from James that sent the first real chill down my spine. "Having fun. Miss you, I guess. Thinking about everything." The message felt cold, nothing like his usual affectionate texts. The "I guess" and vague reference to everything left me unsettled. When I tried calling, it went straight to voicemail. I showed Taylor, who suggested he might just be drunk with his friends. "Don't read too much into it," she advised, handing me another cocktail. "Bachelor parties are wild. He probably lost his phone, and somebody sent that." I tried to enjoy the rest of the weekend, but James's strange message lingered in my mind. He didn't text again until Sunday afternoon, a simple landing soon. "Love you" that somehow felt forced. Amanda returned to Boston a day earlier than planned, claiming she needed to handle a work emergency. When I arrived home Monday evening, James was already asleep, or pretending to be. I crawled into bed beside him, the distance between us feeling greater than the few inches of mattress separating our bodies. The following days brought more unusual behavior. Amanda began dropping by our apartment unannounced, always with flimsy excuses about forgotten items from the bachelorette party or questions about wedding details that could have been asked over the phone. Each visit seemed timed for when James would be home, and I noticed their eyes meeting in ways that made my stomach clench. One evening, Amanda's phone lit up with multiple notifications while we were finalizing the seating chart. I glimpsed James's name before she hastily flipped it over, explaining that they were coordinating his family's travel arrangements as a surprise for me. "Since when do you handle travel arrangements for James's family?" I asked, trying to keep my tone light. "Just trying to help," she replied, a defensive edge to her voice. "You have enough on your plate with the wedding planning." At a family dinner the weekend after the bachelor party, Amanda made several strange comments that raised my internal alarms. As we discussed the honeymoon, she smiled mysteriously and said, "I know exactly what James really wants from this marriage." My mother laughed awkwardly. "And what would that be, Amanda?" "Ask James," she replied, looking directly at him. "We have had some very revealing conversations lately." James nearly choked on his wine, quickly changing the subject to sports while avoiding eye contact with me. Later that night, I asked what Amanda had meant, but he dismissed it as your sister being weird as usual. I wanted to believe him, to trust that nothing inappropriate had happened, but doubt had planted its seed. Still, I convinced myself that pre-wedding stress was affecting everyone's behavior. Planning a wedding was notorious for creating tension, and I had witnessed countless couples navigate similar challenges in my years as an event planner. The following week, I mentioned my concerns to Taylor over coffee. Unlike me, she had noticed Amanda's behavior patterns for years and had less patience for giving her the benefit of the doubt. "I don't want to alarm you," Taylor said carefully, "but Amanda has always wanted what you have, the way she looks at James sometimes. It's not how a future sister-in-law should look." "You think something happened at the bachelor party?" I asked, voicing my deepest fear. Taylor squeezed my hand. "I don't know, but trust your instincts. You have good ones, LaDonna. You always have." I nodded, feeling the first real crack in the foundation of trust I had built with James. Something had changed during that weekend, something neither James nor Amanda wanted me to discover. As I drove home, I made a decision to pay closer attention, rather than dismiss my concerns as paranoia. After all, I had spent a lifetime ignoring Amanda's patterns of taking what was mine, and I refused to let her take James too, at least not without knowing the truth. After our separate bachelor and bachelorette weekends, James returned a different man. The warmth that had characterized our relationship for 4 years had cooled significantly. He avoided eye contact when speaking to me, finding sudden interest in the floor or his phone. His goodnight kisses became quick pecks, rather than the lingering embraces we had shared before. Our physical intimacy nearly disappeared overnight. When I initiated, he claimed exhaustion from work, stress about the wedding, or simply rolled away pretending to sleep. Each rejection stung more than the last, leaving me questioning what had changed and why. "Are you having second thoughts about us?" I asked one night after another rebuffed advance. "Of course not," he insisted. But his eyes never met mine. "The wedding is just making everything real. I need some time to process it all." I tried to understand, to give him space while maintaining our connection, but something felt fundamentally broken between us. The timing, immediately after the bachelor party, couldn't be coincidental. Meanwhile, Amanda began visiting our apartment with alarming frequency. She appeared 3 or 4 times a week, always with thin excuses about wedding details or borrowed items needing return. Strangely, her visits coincided precisely with James's schedule, arriving minutes after he returned from work and leaving reluctantly when he retired for the evening. One Tuesday evening, I returned early from a client meeting to find them huddled on our balcony, speaking in hushed tones. They jumped apart when I opened the sliding door, both wearing expressions of guilt. "What are you two discussing so secretly?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Just finalizing the surprise wedding gift from my side of the family," James said quickly. "You weren't supposed to see us planning." Amanda nodded vigorously. "Exactly. A surprise. That is why we stopped talking when you came out." Their explanation seemed reasonable enough, yet something in their body language suggested otherwise. That night, I noticed James had received several texts from Amanda, each deleted before I could glimpse their content. 2 weeks before our wedding, I discovered an unfamiliar silver earring in our bathroom, tucked behind the hand towel. It wasn't mine, and when confronted, James suggested it must have been dropped by our cleaning service, despite the fact that our cleaner was a middle-aged man named Robert, who definitely did not wear dangling silver earrings with tiny heart charms. The final venue walkthrough should have been an exciting milestone, but James showed minimal interest in the details I had carefully planned. While I discussed lighting options with the coordinator, I caught him texting, a faint smile playing on his lips. When I peered over, he quickly pocketed his phone. "Wedding jitters?" the coordinator asked sympathetically, noticing the tension between us. "Something like that," James muttered, refusing to elaborate. That same evening, Amanda stopped by with champagne, supposedly to celebrate the upcoming nuptials. As James opened the bottle, she made a comment that sent ice through my veins. "I want you to know I will always be there for James," she said, looking directly at me. "Some bonds can't be broken, even by marriage." The possessive way she emphasized always, and bonds left little room for interpretation. This wasn't sisterly affection, but a declaration of something deeper, something threatening my relationship. 2 days later, with the wedding less than 2 weeks away, I found myself needing Amanda's laptop to check our final guest spreadsheet. My computer had crashed, and Amanda had been managing the RSVP list as part of her maid of honor duties. "Of course you can borrow it," she said, handing over her silver MacBook. "The spreadsheet should be on the desktop. Just return it tomorrow." That night, after James had gone to bed claiming another headache, I opened Amanda's laptop. The spreadsheet wasn't on the desktop as promised. I began searching through folders, clicking through various directories to locate the wedding guest information. In a folder labeled Personal Projects, I noticed a subfolder simply titled J. My hand hovered over the trackpad, internal debate raging about whether to respect her privacy or follow my growing suspicions. The folder naming seemed too coincidental, and as maid of honor, shouldn't all wedding-related materials be properly labeled? After several minutes of moral wrestling, I clicked the folder. Inside were several video files with dates as file names. One caught my eye immediately. It matched the weekend of James's bachelor party. My heart pounded against my ribs as I stared at the file, knowing that opening it would likely change everything. The rational part of my brain argued that innocent explanations could exist. Perhaps video messages from wedding guests or bachelor party highlights meant as a surprise gift. The scared part of me wanted to close the laptop, return it, and proceed with the wedding plans in blissful ignorance. But the voice of self-preservation, the one that had protected me through childhood disappointments and professional challenges, whispered that I deserved to know the truth before committing my life to James. With shaking hands, I clicked the file. After a brief loading screen, the video began to play, and my world collapsed around me. The video began with a hotel room scene, unmistakably in Las Vegas, from the distinctive skyline visible through floor-to-ceiling windows. The camera seemed to be set up deliberately on a dresser, angled toward the king-sized bed. For a brief, hopeful moment, I thought perhaps this was just drunken bachelor party footage, maybe embarrassing but ultimately harmless. Then my sister Amanda walked into the frame, wearing a red dress I recognized from her Instagram post that weekend. My breath caught in my throat. What was she doing in Las Vegas during James's bachelor party when she was supposed to be in Miami with me? Moments later, James entered, stumbling slightly, drink in hand. He was clearly intoxicated but conscious. Laughing at something Amanda said off camera, she approached him, running her fingers down his chest in a gesture so intimate it made me physically ill. "Are you sure she doesn't know?" Amanda asked, her voice clear in the video's audio. James shook his head. "LaDonna suspects nothing. She trusts me completely." The casual dismissal of my trust felt like a physical blow. I watched in horror as Amanda pushed James onto the bed, climbing on top of him with practiced familiarity that suggested this wasn't their first encounter. "I have always wanted what she has," Amanda said directly to the camera, as if speaking to me. "I have always taken what she loves. Her toys, her clothes, her first boyfriend. And now, her fiancé." James made a weak protest. "We shouldn't do this again. The wedding is so close." "But you can't resist me, can you?" Amanda taunted, unbuttoning his shirt. "You never could, even when you were supposedly committed to my sister." My entire body went cold as the awful truth became clear. This wasn't just a drunken mistake during the bachelor party. The words "do this again" confirmed my worst fears that their betrayal had been ongoing, perhaps throughout my relationship with James. The video continued, showing intimate details I couldn't bear to watch but couldn't turn away from. Through tears, I heard Amanda's cruel words about me, about how James had settled for me but truly wanted her. "LaDonna is so naive," she laughed at one point, looking directly at the camera. "Planning her perfect wedding while her perfect man comes to me whenever he can. She has always been so easy to steal from." What struck me most wasn't just the physical betrayal, but the calculated cruelty. The camera placement, Amanda's direct addresses to the lens, all suggested this video was created not just to document their affair, but to hurt me specifically. My sister had recorded her betrayal intentionally, perhaps planning to reveal it at the most devastating moment. Nausea overwhelmed me. I barely made it to the bathroom before vomiting, my body physically rejecting what my mind had just witnessed. Kneeling on the cold tile floor, I shook uncontrollably, tears streaming down my face as I tried to process the magnitude of their deception. After what felt like hours, I returned to the laptop, unable to watch more, but needing to secure evidence. I created a copy of the video file on my personal cloud drive, along with screenshots of the folder's contents and dates. Then I carefully returned everything to its original state on Amanda's computer, closing all windows and folders as I had found them. That night, I lay awake beside James, studying his sleeping face in the dim light filtering through our curtains. How many times had he left my bed to be with her? How many lies had he told me with the same lips that had kissed me goodnight moments ago? The man I thought I knew had been replaced by a stranger wearing his face. Sleep never came. Instead, my mind replayed every suspicious moment, every strange interaction between them, cataloging signs I had willfully ignored. By morning, exhaustion had hardened into resolve. I would not confront them immediately, not when raw emotion might lead to rash decisions. I needed time to think, to plan my response carefully. When James woke, I pretended everything was normal, accepting his peck on the cheek before he left for work. My performance must have been convincing because he noticed nothing amiss, further confirming how little he truly saw me anymore. That afternoon, Amanda visited, ostensibly to discuss final flower arrangements. She sat at my kitchen counter, flipping through photos of bouquet options while I made coffee, my hands trembling slightly as I poured water into the machine. "Are you excited?" she asked, a smug smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "Just 10 days until you are Mrs. James Porter." I forced a smile, wondering how she could look me in the eyes after what she had done. "Very excited. Everything feels so much more real now." "I bet," she replied, her tone carrying a double meaning only I understood. James seemed a little stressed this morning when I texted him. Wedding jitters, probably. The casual mention of their morning communication, something a sister-in-law-to-be would have no reason to do, was clearly meant to unsettle me. She was flaunting their connection, testing my awareness of their betrayal. Probably, I agreed, setting her coffee down harder than necessary, causing it to splash onto her wedding planner. "Oops, sorry about that." As I watched her hastily blot the liquid from her precious notebook, a cold clarity washed over me. This woman, my own flesh and blood, had systematically worked to destroy my happiness. The years of taking my possessions, undermining my achievements, and now stealing my future husband reflected a pattern of deliberate cruelty I could no longer excuse as sibling rivalry. That evening, alone in our apartment with James working late, I made my decision. I would not cancel the wedding immediately. I would not confront them separately, where they could coordinate their stories or manipulate me with individual apologies. Instead, I would ensure their betrayal was exposed publicly, forcing them to face the consequences of their actions in front of the people whose opinions they valued most. A family dinner, I decided, 1 week before the wedding with both sets of parents present. The perfect setting to reveal exactly who my sister and fiancé truly were. For the next 5 days, I maintained an Academy Award-worthy performance of the excited bride-to-be. I confirmed final details with vendors, picked up my dress from alterations, and even managed to smile through a lunch with James's mother, who kept gushing about what a wonderful addition to the family I would be. All the while, James grew increasingly distant, finding excuses to work late and avoiding physical contact. When he did speak to me, his words were measured, as if carefully screened for slips that might reveal his infidelity. He had never been particularly attentive to wedding planning, but now he made decisions without consulting me at all, from changing our first dance song to switching the reception bar from open to cash without discussion. I thought we agreed on, at last, for our first dance, I mentioned casually over breakfast. He didn't look up from his phone. I emailed the DJ to change it to "The Way You Look Tonight." It is more upbeat. The change itself wasn't the issue. It was the complete disregard for our partnership, a preview of the unilateral decision-making that would characterize our marriage if I went through with it. Meanwhile, Amanda became increasingly bold, stopping by our apartment daily with urgent wedding questions that inevitably led to private conversations with James. She made little effort to hide their complicity, openly studying my reactions as if gauging whether I had discovered their secret. "I picked up James's tuxedo alterations," she announced one evening, hanging the garment bag in our hallway. "I know exactly how he likes the fit." The statement hung in the air, loaded with implication. When I didn't react, disappointment flickered across her face. She was waiting for the confrontation, perhaps even hoping for it, eager to see me break down and acknowledge their betrayal. I refused to give her the satisfaction. 6 days before the wedding, I invited both sets of parents, Amanda and James, to dinner at my parents' home, presenting it as a pre-wedding celebration for immediate family only. "Why the formal dinner?" James asked suspiciously. "We have the rehearsal dinner in 5 days. I want our parents to spend some quality time together before the wedding chaos," I explained, the lie flowing smoothly. "Mom is excited to host everyone." He seemed to accept this, though his eyes narrowed slightly. "Will there be speeches or anything? Should I prepare something?" "No preparation needed," I assured him. "Just be yourself." The irony wasn't lost on me, considering the himself I knew was a carefully constructed facade. That evening, I called my best friend Taylor to solidify my plans, needing both practical and emotional support. "I found video evidence of James sleeping with Amanda," I told her. My voice surprisingly steady, multiple times, including during his bachelor party. Taylor's gasp was followed by a string of expletives. "Those absolute snakes! Please tell me you have kicked them both to the curb." "Not yet," I explained. "I am planning something more, public." I detailed my plan for the family dinner, including the technical setup required. Taylor listened, then offered her unwavering support. "You can stay with me after for as long as you need," she promised. "Whatever happens, I have your back." The day before the family dinner, I tested my laptop connection to my parents' television, ensuring the video would play smoothly. I edited the footage down to 2 minutes that clearly showed their betrayal without the most intimate details, unable to stomach the thought of exposing such private moments to our parents despite their deception. I packed an overnight bag and left it in my car trunk, knowing I would not return to the apartment I shared with James after the dinner. I also gathered important documents, irreplaceable mementos, and enough clothes for a week, secretly moving them to Taylor's apartment under the guise of wedding preparations. The morning of the dinner arrived, and I dressed carefully in a blue dress James once said brought out my eyes. My hands were steady as I applied makeup, covering the dark circles from nights of sleepless planning. The woman in the mirror looked calm, almost serene, despite the storm raging inside her. "Ready for tonight?" James asked as he adjusted his tie, a nervous edge to his voice. "More than ready," I replied, meeting his eyes in the mirror. "I think tonight will be very revealing for everyone." He paused, something in my tone perhaps triggering a warning in his mind. But he brushed it aside. "Should we bring wine or something?" "I have everything covered," I assured him, zipping up my purse with the flash drive inside. "All you need to do is show up." We arrived at my parents' suburban home exactly at 7, my mother greeting us with kisses on the cheek, while my father shook James's hand with the enthusiasm of a man about to welcome a son-in-law. The scene felt surreal, like watching actors perform a play where I knew the shocking plot twist none of them could anticipate. Amanda arrived last, wearing a dress so similar to mine it could only be deliberate. Another attempt to unsettle me. She hugged James a moment too long, her eyes flicking to my face to gauge my reaction. I smiled pleasantly, the calm before the storm I was about to unleash. "Now that everyone is here," my mother announced, "let us move to the dining room. I have prepared all of LaDonna's favorites." As we took our seats around the table my father had built when I was a child, I felt a strange sense of completion. The family circle that had witnessed my growth would now witness my heartbreak and, ultimately, my strength. The stage was set, the players assembled, and I alone knew how this particular family dinner would end. Dinner began with my father's specialty rosemary roasted chicken, accompanied by my mother's garlic, mashed potatoes, and seasonal vegetables. The conversation flowed naturally between wedding plans and James's recent promotion at his law firm. From an outside perspective, we looked like any family celebrating an upcoming marriage. "Just think," my mother said, refilling wine glasses. "In 9 days, we will officially be one family." James's mother raised her glass. "To the beautiful couple. May your marriage be blessed with happiness and trust." The word trust landed like a stone in my stomach, but I maintained my smile, clinking glasses with everyone at the table, including Amanda, whose smug expression had grown throughout the meal. During dessert, Amanda found an opportunity to corner me in the kitchen while I helped my mother plate the apple pie. She leaned close, her voice low enough that only I could hear. "He chose me, you know," she whispered, triumph evident in her tone. "He has been choosing me for months. The wedding is just for show." "You have always been so naive, LaDonna." I set down the dessert plates carefully, turning to face her. "Is that so?" Something in my calm reaction seemed to unnerve her. She had expected tears, denial, or anger, not this collected response. Before she could reply, I picked up the plates and returned to the dining room, my heart hammering but my resolve stronger than ever. Once everyone had been served dessert, I stood up, tapping my glass gently with a spoon. All eyes turned to me, expectant smiles on the faces of our parents, wariness on James's, and lingering smugness on Amanda's. "I want to thank everyone for coming tonight," I began, my voice steady. "Before we get any closer to the wedding, I thought it would be nice to share a special video I recently discovered." James shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "What video?" "We did not discuss any video presentation." "It is a surprise," I replied, maintaining eye contact as I walked to the television mounted on the dining room wall. "Something I think everyone here should see." I connected my laptop to the TV, feeling Amanda's eyes burning into my back. When I turned around, her expression had shifted from smug to uncertain, the first flicker of fear crossing her features. "LaDonna, maybe now is not the time for videos," she suggested quickly. "We were having such a nice dinner conversation." "This will only take a minute," I assured her, finger hovering over the play button. "I think it is important that we are all honest with each other before this wedding takes place." Before either James or Amanda could object further, I pressed play. The hotel room in Las Vegas appeared on screen, followed by Amanda entering in her red dress. The shocked gasps from both sets of parents filled the room as James appeared next, clearly intoxicated but coherent. "What is this?" James's father demanded, his face reddening. No one answered as Amanda's voice came through the speakers, clear and devastating. "Are you sure she doesn't know?" Followed by James's confident reply, "LaDonna suspects nothing. She trusts me completely." Amanda lunged toward the television, trying to block the screen. "Turn it off! This is private." "Private?" I repeated calmly, stepping between her and the TV. "Like my fiancé should have been private? Like my wedding plans should have been private? Please, sit down, Amanda." On screen, Amanda's cruel words continued. "I have always taken what she loves. Her toys, her clothes, her first boyfriend. And now, her fiancé." My mother's hand flew to her mouth, tears welling in her eyes. James's mother sat frozen, horror etched across her face as her son was exposed as a cheater days before his wedding. James himself had gone deathly pale, his eyes darting between the screen, our parents and me. He made a weak attempt to stand. I can explain. I was drunk. I did not know what I was doing. Seems like you knew exactly what you were doing, my father cut in, his voice tight with anger. And according to this, it wasn't the first time. I let the video play until Amanda's most damning statement, "LaDonna is so naive, planning her perfect wedding while her perfect man comes to me whenever he can." Then I paused the footage, turning to face the stunned table. The silence was absolute, broken only by Amanda's ragged breathing as she realized the magnitude of what had just happened. "You recorded us?" she finally sputtered, her voice rising hysterically. "You invaded my privacy?" The absurdity of her objection after what she had done almost made me laugh. "Interesting that your concern is about privacy, not about sleeping with your sister's fiancé." James attempted damage control, his lawyer instincts kicking in. "LaDonna, we made a mistake, a terrible mistake. But this, exposing us like this to our families, this is not the answer." "Actually, it is exactly the answer," I replied, my voice gaining strength. "You two decided to betray me behind closed doors. You do not get to dictate how I respond to that betrayal." Amanda suddenly changed tactics, tears streaming down her face as she turned to our parents. "She set this up. She probably encouraged James to drink and then manipulated the situation to make me look bad because she has always been jealous of me." My mother, who had always favored Amanda, looked at her with new eyes. "That is enough, Amanda. We all saw and heard you on that video. You knew exactly what you were doing." James's father stood abruptly, his chair scraping loudly against the hardwood floor. "We raised you better than this, James. Your mother and I are deeply disappointed." He turned to me, genuine sorrow in his eyes. "LaDonna, I am so sorry. You deserved better from our son." James made one last desperate attempt. "LaDonna, please, we can work through this. Couples therapy, postpone the wedding, whatever you need." I looked at him, really looked at him, seeing clearly for the first time the weakness beneath his charming exterior. This man had been willing to build a life on lies, to say vows he had already broken, to stand beside me at the altar while carrying on with my sister. "There is nothing to work through," I said finally. "The wedding is canceled. I have already contacted the vendors this morning. The deposits are lost, but that seems a small price to pay to avoid marrying a man who could betray me so completely." "You cannot just cancel everything!" Amanda cried, panic replacing her earlier smugness. "What will people say?" "They will say exactly what happened," I replied calmly. "That the bride discovered her sister and fiancé were having an affair and had the self-respect to walk away." I gathered my laptop, unplugging it from the television. "I have already moved my essential belongings out of our apartment," I informed James, whose face had crumpled into shock. "You can keep the furniture. Consider it the price of my freedom." Turning to our stunned families, I continued with dignity despite the pain threatening to overwhelm me. "I am sorry this dinner ended this way. I truly am. But I refuse to begin a marriage based on lies and betrayal, and I refuse to pretend I didn't know what was happening behind my back." My father stood, placing a protective arm around my shoulders. "You are welcome to stay with us as long as you need, sweetheart." "Thank you, but I will be staying with Taylor for a while," I replied, grateful for his support but knowing I needed space from all family entanglements. "I need time to process everything." As I headed for the door, James called after me, desperation in his voice. "LaDonna, please, we need to talk about this privately." I paused, turning back one last time. There is nothing left to say that has not already been said on video. "Goodbye, James." With those words, I walked out of my parents' house, leaving behind the chaos of exposed secrets and shattered relationships. In my car, I finally allowed the tears to fall, mourning not just the loss of my relationship and upcoming marriage, but the sister I had always tried to believe in despite a lifetime of evidence to the contrary. As I drove to Taylor's apartment, grief mingled with an unexpected sense of liberation. For the first time in my life, I had refused to accept Amanda's behavior, refused to be the understanding older sister who forgave all transgressions. For the first time, I had prioritized my own well-being over keeping the peace. Though painful, it felt like the first honest breath I had taken in years. The 24 hours following the family dinner passed in a blur of practical tasks and emotional numbness. Taylor offered me her spare bedroom, helping me unpack the belongings I had secretly moved before the confrontation. My phone buzzed constantly with messages from James, Amanda, and various family members. But I silenced it, needing space to process what had happened. "You can stay as long as you need," Taylor assured me, setting a cup of tea beside my bed. No rush, no pressure. The wedding cancellation logistics occupied my first week of freedom. I sent a carefully worded email to guests, explaining that due to unforeseen circumstances the wedding would not take place, offering no further details but thanking them for their understanding. Most responded with sympathy, though a few pressed for information. Vendors required personal calls, many expressing genuine concern when hearing my measured explanation that the relationship has ended due to betrayal. Several offered partial refund of deposits despite their contracts, touched by the situation. The wedding planner I had hired, a professional colleague, waived her cancellation fee entirely. "The industry has each other's backs," she told me kindly. "Take care of yourself, LaDonna." My mother called daily, her voice heavy with guilt and concern. "We never realized how deeply Amanda's behavior affected you," she admitted during one conversation. "All those years, we thought we were keeping the peace, but we were enabling her." "You were," I agreed, not softening the truth to spare her feelings, but that is in the past now. James's attempts at contact grew increasingly desperate. Emails begging forgiveness, text messages claiming Amanda had manipulated him, even flowers delivered to Taylor's apartment with cards promising to make everything right. I returned the flowers and deleted the messages without response. Amanda took a different approach, alternating between angry accusations that I had ruined her reputation and tearful apologies claiming she never meant to hurt me. Her final message, a voicemail left at 3 a.m., revealed more truth than perhaps she intended. "You think you are so much better than me," she slurred, clearly intoxicated. "You always get everything handed to you. The successful business, the perfect apartment, the handsome fiancé. I just wanted something of yours for once. Is that so wrong?" Her words confirmed what I had always suspected but refused to acknowledge. Her actions were not mistakes or momentary weaknesses, but deliberate attempts to take what was mine. The realization, while painful, provided clarity that helped me move forward without looking back. 6 months after the canceled wedding, I had established a new normal. I moved into a small but charming apartment in a different neighborhood, symbolically distancing myself from the life I had planned with James. My business continued to thrive as I channeled my energy into creating perfect weddings for clients while healing from the implosion of my own. Therapy became my lifeline, weekly sessions helping me understand the patterns that had allowed both James and Amanda to betray me so completely. My tendency to excuse red flags, to prioritize others' feelings over my own instincts, to believe family loyalty trumped personal boundaries, all came under scrutiny as I rebuilt my sense of self. "You are not responsible for their choices," my therapist reminded me often. "You trusted people who should have been trustworthy. That is not a weakness." Gradually, I learned to believe her, to forgive myself for not seeing the signs earlier while holding James and Amanda accountable for their actions. I established firm boundaries with my parents, making it clear that I would not attend family gatherings where Amanda was present. At least not until I felt ready. "We respect your decision," my father assured me, his own relationship with Amanda strained by her behavior. "Take all the time you need." 1 year after what should have been my wedding day, I encountered James at a coffee shop downtown. He looked disheveled, his once impeccable appearance now careless. Dark circles under his eyes suggesting ongoing struggles. "LaDonna," he said, voice cracking slightly. "You look well." "Thank you," I replied, feeling neither anger nor longing, just a distant sadness for what could have been. "How are you?" He shrugged, eyes downcast. "Managing. The firm put me on probation after everything came out. Turns out they frown on attorneys who demonstrate questionable judgment and ethics." I nodded, unsurprised that his behavior had professional consequences. "I am sorry to hear that." Amanda moved to Seattle, he offered. Perhaps thinking I would want to know. After everything, she couldn't handle the fallout here. Your parents barely speak to her now. Though part of me felt sympathy for her isolation, a stronger part recognized it as the natural consequence of her actions. I hope she finds what she is looking for there, I said simply. I miss you, James admitted, reaching for my hand. Every day, I made the biggest mistake of my life. I gently withdrew my hand from his reach. Yes, you did. But that chapter is closed now. For both of us. Walking away from that encounter, I felt the final pieces of my healing click into place. I had faced my betrayer and felt nothing but compassion for his situation while maintaining my boundaries. Progress, not perfection. 2 years after discovering the video that changed everything, I finally agreed to dinner with my parents specifically to address the family dynamics that had enabled Amanda's behavior throughout our childhood. The conversation was difficult but necessary. We failed you, my mother acknowledged, tears streaming down her face. We excused Amanda's behavior because it was easier than addressing it. We asked you to be the bigger person so often that we forgot you were just a child too, deserving of protection and fairness. I needed you to see me, I told them honestly, to see how her actions hurt me, again and again. We see you now, my father promised, reaching for my hand. Too late perhaps, but we do see. That conversation began a slow rebuilding of trust with my parents. Though our relationship would never return to blind acceptance of family obligation above personal well-being, I maintained my boundaries while allowing them to demonstrate their understanding through changed behavior rather than mere words. In time, I opened myself to the possibility of new relationships. I met Michael, a landscape architect, through a mutual client. His patience as I navigated trust issues, his respect for my boundaries, and his genuine interest in my healing journey provided a stark contrast to James's self-serving charm. Take all the time you need, he told me after our third date, when I explained my hesitation to rush into a relationship. I am not going anywhere. True to his word, he remained steadfast, never pushing but always present, as I gradually lowered my carefully constructed defenses. Our relationship developed slowly, built on honest communication and mutual respect, rather than the flashy romance James had offered. As I reflect on the journey from betrayal to healing, I recognize that the pain, while excruciating, forced me to confront patterns I might otherwise have continued indefinitely. Amanda's betrayal, though unforgivable in many ways, ultimately freed me from a lifetime of accepting less than I deserved from both family and romantic partners. The ultimate lesson wasn't about them at all, but about my own worth, my right to establish boundaries and expect them to be respected, my courage to walk away from relationships that diminished rather than enhanced my life. Have you ever had to rebuild your life after a devastating betrayal? Share your story in the comments below. The road to healing is different for everyone, but knowing we are not alone in our struggles can provide comfort and strength. If this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe for more real-life experiences. And remember that sometimes the most painful endings lead to the most beautiful beginnings. Thank you for listening to my journey, and may you find the courage to value yourself first in all your relationships.